This month's theme is radical. So a phrase that I've never liked from the Bay Area is this idea of move fast and break things. And not just because it's a poor management mantra, because it is, but because it's inherently privileged. I mean, who gets to move fast and who gets to break things? Because when we take to the streets demanding justice, chanting Black Lives Matter, defund the police, abolish ICE, suddenly the tone is, whoa, 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 that's too fast and you might break things. But the fact is, things are and have been broken for many in this country. And you don't have to look far into the before times to know that this isn't new. And when leaders who espouse move fast, break things, when they testify before Congress, they have a bevy of million-dollar lawyers telling them, you didn't break anything. You're protecting free speech. This month, I want to focus on radical. It's a radical act to break things, but it's selfish when you use that mantra to just grab power for yourself. And that's why we wanted to bring Hodari Davis and Candace Wicks Davis to stage. They are artists, educators, and the minds behind Edutainment for Equity. They are deeply connected to Oakland's history and future, and they create transformative experiences to affirm an equitable future. So, without any further chatter, everyone, please unmute your microphones or slam the chat, and welcome to the stage Hodari and Candace.
Whoa.
Hey, welcome.
Thank you. We're really happy to be here. Feel like it's a real honor to get to present and represent Oakland again. We try to represent Oakland in everything that we do. So the idea of creatively representing Oakland in the morning is a very exciting thing.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we want to start by just talking about who we are, how we arrived at this moment in our own lives, and hopefully through this story reflect a little bit on how we positioned our art, how we position our work, and maybe provide some tips or some advice for folks who are trying to figure out how to live their passions.
So it's good to see all of you this morning. I'm so glad that you took the time to be with us this morning. And I'm really pleased to talk about the work that we're doing through our company, Edutainment for Equity. We provide transformative and innovative experiences that affirm an equitable future. We do that through trainings, events, consulting, and arts production. And we have 3 areas of focus, which is organizational development, equity and inclusion, and teaching and instruction.
Yeah, and I think our story ultimately begins with love, the love that we share for each other. And, you know, I think often about the quote by Huey P. Newton, which as a representative of Oakland, I think about what motivates people is not feelings of hate, but feelings of love. And so even though we've dedicated a lot of our work to facing up to social justice challenges, especially the challenge of racism and colonialism, we still do that out of love for people, out of love for humanity, out of love for the spirit of what it means to be in community with others. And, you know, all of our work is centered around that. That's what it comes from. And it was a journey for us to get to that point in our own lives. So I'm Hodari Davis. I've lived in Oakland for 30 years. I've raised 3 children in Oakland. I'm currently a doctoral student at the School of Education at UC Davis. I'm an unrealist. I believe in possibility. I believe in intention, ambition, and respect. I believe the future has been and can be curated, and I'm interested in curation. I spent the first 5 years of my life in California on the campus of Stanford University while my father worked on a PhD. When he finished his coursework, I moved to Ithaca, New York. I spent most of my childhood in my mother's classroom, either as a student or as a member of her after-school program, Young Gifted and Black. We performed poetry, taught history, and more than anything, we learned to love ourselves. My mother's classroom was the most consistent place to cultivate art outside of my home. I started teaching when I was 14. I had 7 5-year-olds who I led in activities and directed to different lessons in art and swimming and, learning and having fun. I did more of that when I was in college in Ohio and at UC Berkeley, where I met my first wife. I became a high school teacher at Berkeley High School. I taught there for a while. I hope that you're seeing the theme of education as kind of this perpetual thing. I was a young father, poet, and MC at the time, refining my craft and recording songs in an earlier hip hop era. I retired from teaching and from hip hop when I became the executive director of Making Waves in Marin, focusing on elementary and middle school students for success in college and high school. Our wave makers were second language learners from Central and South America. I think all that's important just to give you a sense of the breadth of the work that I've done that kind of led me to where I am now. We were very successful, but I wasn't fulfilled. I left Making Waves. The best thing that happened there while I was there was that I met Candace. At a turning point in my life, I joined You Speaks and became a missionary, a designer of a global ambassador for the youth spoken word movement. In that role, I traveled around the world, building organizations, training, teaching artists, developing best practices, working to build a model of youth development for the world. It allowed me to be an educator, an artist, a poet. It allowed me to stay in touch with the MC in me, and it allowed me to help kind of share the things that I knew, the things that I had learned, both from being on stage, being in a classroom, being in front of people, performing my whole life with another generation. What's guided me through all of this and what's remained consistent is a service to young people, concern for the future. I did not want to become a teacher, but it was the only job for which I had experience, and throughout my life, regardless of my title, that has shown up. Whether I was coaching baseball in Oakland or managing poetry festivals around the country, or the vision was the same: actively curating a better world for the next generation with the next generation. That's been my North Star. And currently I'm working on a doctorate to figure out how I continue to walk that path. My focus remains the same. I want to curate a better world for my children and for my children's children. And as long as I have energy, that's my direction.
So I was looking for all of these pictures. I don't have as many pictures. And then I started really thinking about what was the most important to share. And so what I'll say is that I'm a Long Beach girl. I grew up in Long Beach, California. I was, a part of the wave of the school busing, school vouchers during the Reagan era in the 80s. So I oftentimes went to schools that were not in my neighborhood, that were across town, and that were primarily white and oftentimes culturally hostile. And so my educational experience was very much steeped in dealing with discrimination and racism all throughout my K through 12 experience. And I really, truly believe that led me to becoming an educator, that led me to becoming someone who wanted to actively disrupt inequality and to pursue justice and to become what I thought of myself as, and what I still think of myself as, is a radical educator. And so, in that top corner is a picture of me on one of my first education jobs when I was a student at UC Berkeley. I was working with a program called Revitalizing Education and Learning. And our job was to go into classrooms and work with teachers to integrate social justice and equity themes into their curriculum. And that job really changed everything. I would say that I really didn't know what I wanted to do until I started working that job. And so from there, I actually went to, after I graduated from UC Berkeley, I went to the Musicians Institute in Hollywood to pursue my passion also for music as a singer. I ran out of money and had to come back to the Bay Area and really start from scratch. And so for a time, I really neglected that part of myself, because I saw that as a failure, that I sold everything and moved back down to LA and didn't achieve what I went there to achieve. So I became a teacher, which I also loved very much. And I feel like the space of teaching was a place of social transformation. You have these, this group of 30, 40, unfortunately 30 to 40 young people in front of you, and you never know how broad your impact can be when you're standing in front of them, presenting them information, some of which they may have never seen. So I taught Afro-Latino history and English in East Oakland at Arise High School. And I also worked for a program called SNAP in San Rafael, which is where I met Hodari. And the picture kind of in the middle of the screen is me and one of my former students that was a part of my program and Hodari's, who actually passed away last year. She was in and out of the juvenile justice system. You know, it's just life just took its toll. But she is just really impactful to me because she just really taught me a lot about systems and about the cards that people are dealt and how difficult it can be to get out of those cycles of oppression. And then I started working as the program director for an environmental service learning initiative for the city of San Francisco. I had the chance to go to Cuba to study environmental sustainability there. And I was just, in this picture here, I'm actually sick this day. I had food poisoning. I hope you can't tell in the picture, but it was a really transformative experience for me to go to a place that was so culturally different from what I was used to. And it really opened my mind to how hegemony had like framed my understanding of the world. And so that really was what started me on this travel bug, which we'll talk about a little bit later, about wanting to go around the world and understand it more. And I started singing again. I went back to my art, got the opportunity to travel to Malta to present my art and my work as an educator with Hodari. Hodari was also one of the artists on that trip. And I really started to cultivate myself again as an artist, which was really healing after having the experience of going to music school and it not working out. And then all of that kind of culminated into a company called Antique Edutainment that I started in 2011. And it evolved into what we are, work for now, which is Edutainment for Equity. And so for me, my North Star has, I would say, always been, in addition to education, really radical education, is radical artistry. And I believe that as an artist, it's our responsibility, like Nina Simone said, to reflect the times, that we can't make art that's just completely irrelevant, especially when so much suffering is going on in the world. And so this is what guides not only my work as an educator, as a consultant, but also as an artist. So what Edutainment for Equity became when Hodari and I decided to join forces, not just as husband and wife, but also as business partners, was how do we take, which is a lot of stuff, how do we take our artistic practices, respectively, our experience as educators? Both of us had been in education for, over 20 years, respectively. How do we bring our passion for social justice and equity and inclusion? And how do we merge also our deep love for humanity and for community into one thing? And Edutainment for Equity became that thing. So we have this spectrum that we work from. Edutainment is a blend of education, entertainment, and there's a spectrum that we work within. That's on one side is our education piece, which is the workshops, the training, the consulting, the coaching. And then on the other end of the spectrum is the entertainment, the music production, the live performance. And then right in the middle is where those two things meet. So that's where we do workshops that have art infused in them. That's where we do our artistic campaigns and events. That's where we place our international tours. And we'll talk a little bit more deeply about what those things look like. But when we talk about art, we want to be clear that what we mean when we say art may not be what folks think about when they hear the word art. So we say that art is anti-racist technology when it comes from Edutainment for Equity. You see the trademark in the corner, y'all? See that trademark? Don't be trying to take nothing. We call art active resistance tools. We call art art for radical transformation. That we're not creating art for the sake of just creating something in the world, but we're creating it because we want to use it as a tool to transform our conditions. And so the idea is that art is actually the draw, that our artistic expression is what we leverage to create emotional engagement. And then we have a call to action for the audiences that are interacting with the art that we produce. Our call to action is to be in honor of community, empowerment, pride, and justice. And we took those things on in a lot of different ways, and we ask for those things from community in a lot of different ways. So we're going to talk about some examples of that.
Yeah, we want to share a few examples. It's not exhaustive. We chose these to share because of their relationship to Oakland and their resonance reflected in our practice. Traveling in and outside the country, we're often asked, where are we from? Like how we show up, what we talk about, and what we look like doesn't provide any clues that establish who or what we represent. So our one-word answer seems to provide people with a lens on our lineage, a window on our different world that we come from. When we're asked where we're from, we say we're from Oakland, recognizing that it's more than just a place. It's a heritage of art and struggle and challenge, joy and resistance. Oakland is where we're from, what we look for in others, no matter where we are. Oakland is the model for the relationships we're trying to build, so it makes sense to start our journey with Life is Living. The Life is Living Festival is a project of Youth Speaks that amplifies a central pedagogical principle in the organization called Life is Primary Text. And during my time at Youth Speaks, I worked with Shanaka Hodge and Mark Bamuti Joseph, Joan Asado, Candace, many others in the community to produce Life is Living events since 2008. We've led with one specific question: what sustains life in Oakland? And together with 100 artists, activists, organizations, we sought to answer this question annually at Little Bobby Hutton Park for the past 13 years. Central to this collaborative effort is honoring the past, especially the survival tactics and strategies and programs of the Black Panther Party for self-defense. Central to this experience is the joy, diversity, and love that is community. Life is Living is a reunion for the spirit of Oakland as much as it is a festival for the people of Oakland. And what you're seeing here is just images of some of the flyers because of a principle that Emory Douglas had with the Panthers, was about creating iconography around the people who are doing the work, creating iconography around the people who are the so-called rank and file, and not establishing always iconography that is supposed to highlight some central leader or some umbrella head. That we see community, we try to reflect that community in this work. This year, due to COVID, we put the entire festival, made it virtual, put the whole thing online, and still engaged all of our partners, challenged them to move to this new space, to create a hybrid, kind of innovate in this new time. And hopefully what we learned this year will translate to what we do next year. But I think critical to what we were able to do this year is maintain our commitment. That is, 13 years ago, we said we were going to honor life in the city of Oakland, and we're not going to allow anything to stop us from doing that, including COVID-19.
So we also have a call to action in the world that has to do with empowerment. We really, truly believe that the people in oppressive circumstances are the closest people to the answers and solutions to the challenges that oppressive systems bring. So we started doing this tour, and to keep it real, when we first started it, we didn't really know, have a plan for what it would be. It really evolved over time. So we started with just going to Ghana a couple of times, and then from there, the world just started to open up, and we started doing these themed tours around the music that we were creating. So the Remember Tour happened for about 2 years, 2015 to 2016. And we traveled to Zanzibar, we traveled to Ghana, we traveled to Tanzania, San Francisco, Atlanta, Washington, DC, all of it taking with us the philosophy of music being in imagery, being able to disrupt inequality. And so we would do a lot of performances and media presentations, some workshops here and there on, how to leverage art and partnerships and coalitions. But it really wasn't cohesive yet until we started doing the nappy tours. And I have a song called Nappy that's about reinforcing natural beauty in the Black community, specifically starting with hair, because hair is such a political statement in the Black community and in the world. You know, what it means to be professional is still exclusive of our natural hair, the way it grows out of our head. So we started going on this tour throughout Africa, the Caribbean, really trying to reinforce this idea of self-love, using hair kind of as the focal point of it. And so the first year, 2017, we went to Uganda, Ghana, Trinidad, and Rotterdam. And this time, what we did as well was we did the live performances. We did, you know, a release of the video for the song, but we also added this component of doing community development and business development workshops for artists and creative entrepreneurs in those respective places. And we also started offering, Hodari was a Black history teacher. And so we started offering this series that we had done in Oakland called Mr. Davis's Classroom, which is a Black history lecture series. We took that too with us on tour, and it became like a African history lecture series too, drawing together the experience of Black Americans and Africans in the diaspora and Africans on the continent. That combination of a service model where we're giving our time for free to do these workshops for folks, in addition to the music, just really coalesced into this model that we then took on tour again in 2018. We went to Kenya, we went to Tanzania and Trinidad, and we also went back to Uganda. So we, you know, really took our time developing this model that became a really empowering model for folks. And so what's funny is that abroad, like, we were able to get access to all of these media outlets that we couldn't get here. So you see here, we're on like national television in Kenya, you know, just these crazy opportunities through the work that we were doing that are really hard to get, you know, when you're at home, funny enough. But what was really beautiful about it was seeing all of the projects that came out of it from folks from those communities. And so we brought, you know, kind of the information that we know, but we also understood that we don't understand everybody's social context. Everybody's social context is different, and they understand it. And so if we just bring what we understand and then they take what they have in their social context, they can really create something. So there's a young woman who started a program called Art at Glance in Kenya, and they do a Kenyan history lecture series that also has arts embedded in it. A young man in Tanzania started this community cleanup and hip hop concert that they do every Saturday. So there were a lot of different things that came out of this work that we did on the road.
So now we want to talk about pride as a value of our organization. As a child, I was a member of an organization called Young, Gifted, and Black that teaches Black history through poetry, rap, and freedom songs. In my time at U Speaks, I saw many Black children who are not proud of their heritage or knew little about Black history. So I enlisted my mother, who had recently retired, and recruited my own children and their friends, and Young, Gifted, and Black was born. For 10 years, we built and developed this organization, performing all over the Bay Area for thousands of audience members, hundreds of kids have been involved in the program, ages 7 to 19. We took over 30 Oakland youth on 4 international tours, performing at Emancipation Day ceremonies in 2 different countries. And when COVID hit, we moved YGB online and continued to find ways to support the work under the direction of my daughter. So it's interesting that this is, again, kind of a family legacy thing, but we've been able to continue this work through channeling that love through our family. It starts with my mother all the way down to my youngest daughter, who actually serves as director of Young, Gifted, and Black now. So again, this theme of leading with love and of weaving in sort of our family values into our community values, and recognizing that we can have a broader impact, that if we're okay, then we can help share to make others okay. And then justice, this is a little bit of a window about where we're going with our work, what's coming for us in 2021. And we want to share a video with you that kind of reflects a little bit of this, but we also have this event that we've been producing for the past 5 years called Educating the Black Child. And this event, again, is about centering the conversation around what is it that Black children need to be successful. And it's a little bit of a reflection of what happens in Young, Gifted, and Black. And it's also a little bit of what we learned on our tours about engaging community in conversations and extracting intelligence from the collective. One of the things that we don't always realize is that the educators in the Bay Area are some of the premier educators in the world. The educators and the artists in the Bay Area are some of the premier artists in the world. And just like us, when they leave Oakland, they find themselves on national television, or they find themselves on HBO or these other large platforms. But when they come home, they live kind of an obscure life. You might run into them at Red Bay or on Creative Mornings. So as to say, there's a lot of humility in our community, but there's also a lot of achievement in our community. And we try to use this event to highlight the outstanding educators and scholars that are present in our community talking about this specific conversation.
And so in addition, when we're looking at our value, our call to action of justice, we've been working on a project called Diamond and Bullets. It has evolved due to COVID-19 into a few different iterations, but we are at the finish line with it. So it'll be coming out early 2021, and it's called Diamond and Bullets. It's an audio play that basically tells the story of, the folks that are left in the wake of police violence, that tells the story of the partner, the wife, the girlfriend, the boyfriend, children that are left after their loved one is murdered by the police. And instead of the campaign that typically the media goes on, which is to figure out a reason to justify the death of this person, we go the other way to show the humanity of the person whose life was taken from them, to humanize their families, to humanize their experience in the world. We will be airing this as an audio play, so it'll be on, radio outlets. We also have a preview of it if you're interested in hearing a little bit of it on Pandora. We did a series called Black Voices. So if you go to Black Voices on Pandora, you can actually hear a little 15-minute little conversation and a few of the songs from the project that's coming. We also at Life is Living hosted fire medicine ceremony that was, we invited families from Oscar Grant's family to Mario Wood's family, Shalene Tyndall's family, all victims of police violence, hosted their families to turn a gun into a shovel with an organization called Led to Life and in partnership with the Anti-Police Terror Project. And so we really use that space as kind of the Diamond and Bullets healing circle for the families who are affected by it as well. So what we're going to do now is show you a video.
Before we click to the video, just one thing I want to say about Diamond and Bullets is that originally we wrote this as a play that was going to happen live on stage. And then when COVID hit, we kind of transitioned to, well, maybe we should make it a film. And over time, with dealing with social distancing, dealing with the challenges of being able to consistently meet with everyone who was involved, that's how it evolved into an audio play. And what's interesting specifically about this play and about the featured artist, which is Antique Naked Soul, is that the entire play is human voices. Every song, every sound that happens in this audio play is made by a human voice. And I think that that's just another critical component of kind of weaving in human experience and kind of stepping up. It's a little bit of like meta in the sense that we're relying on so much on technology these days, but a lot of what we feel about culture and community happens through our ears. And so it happens through our mouths, the screams of anger, the screams of sorrow, the laughter, the joy of love, all those things are we hear through our ears, we express through our mouth. And so for Diamond and Bullets as an audio play, that's really what this is about. And when we show the video, even though you're going to hear this music, I just want you to realize that every sound that you're hearing is a human voice. There are no other instruments involved. If you want to contact us, these are the ways to contact us. Up top our handles, and at the bottom is our website. We're very interested in collaborating and communicating with others. We're very open to working with other organizations to share our expertise. You know, at a time of volatility, it's important to have clear vision and ambition about achieving something. And so we share our dreams with each other and then try to manifest them in real time to share them with other people. And so we hope that you'll reach out to us and share some vision, some dream with us that maybe we can join you in achieving. And hopefully within our practice and within our principles, you can see some possibility for collaboration and partnership.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for reminding me to say that. So this video is Naked Soul Burn. And like Hodari said, we're an all vocal ensemble. So everything that you're hearing is all vocal. All right, let's go.
Great, thank you.
We won't chant, we won't stand for your benign neglect. We won't turn the other cheek, 'cause what we seek is equality. So give me an apocalypse, and I would dance, cause I get democracy. It's the last chance, and if you don't agree with me, well, that's alright, cause I'm about ready to get down and fight, cause there will be no more water for the fire. So there will be no more water for the fire. So burn, baby, burn. So burn, baby, burn. Until the tides turn. Burn, baby, burn.
We don't want to harm it, feel neglect. The very joint we light up doesn't ride it, not to protect. If they don't see it, then our eyes don't see it, then I protest. If they don't hear it, then our words won't understand the process of progress. We need watershed, Babylon is burning. It's broken glass, smoke appears everywhere, returning. No regard, no regret, no respect, no one learning. We are restraining knowledge, watch your back, we emerging.
Poverty is cruelty. You don't care, forget humanity.
All an organization or party can be is a vehicle or spark to get popular support, and then the people carry out changes such as they desire.
Shoot us down, choke us out. You don't face any consequence. So give me an apocalypse, and I would dance, 'cause I get democracy. It's the last chance, and if you don't agree with me, well, that's alright, 'cause I'm about ready to get down and fight,
black smoke bigger than the strangle. Oh, say motherfuckers, you see the stars, man, go bobo. Woman's about to take a turn on the planet, and damn it, ain't nobody even concerned. We seem to intend to holding on to what we earn, living in oblivion. Obviously, we never learn. We can have it all, y'all, only if we have the nerve. Operation Demolition, run the curve, ready for it, ready burns.
The fire this time is unapologetic blackness. That means that we are in the streets. That means that we are interrupting business as usual. That means that we are rejecting liberalism. That means that we are standing face to face, nose to nose with the enemy and refusing to back down. That means we're not looking for concessions or tinkering around the system. We're looking for an absolute replacement of this thing that has been beating and battering and raping and maiming and terrorizing us for hundreds of years. That means that we are engaged in self-determination and building alternatives. We're no longer looking to the system or our oppressor for change. We're looking within.
Who is it?
So thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, we, I guess if we had any tips, the last thing we would say is that we're proud representatives of Oakland. We carry that wherever we go as artists and activists, and we try to be ambassadors for Oakland wherever we go. And that's what remains consistent with us. We're happy to represent the town. And the town is what we love. So thank you for this opportunity to share our experiences, our art, what we've learned. I hope it was a good conversation for y'all, a good morning.